Guys, it's Dr. May. I'm back. It's been about 6 months and I really missed doing this, but I was waiting for just the right thing to do next. So I'm really excited to share this new video series with you. So without further ado, I'm going to pull up the PowerPoint here. So let's see. Coming? Yes. Okay. I'm screen sharing. It's been a while. I think I almost forgot how to do it. Okay. So this is called the Healing Developmental Trauma series. And it's going to be about a 6-video series. And I'm going to talk to you about what they call adaptive survival styles of developmental trauma. So what is developmental trauma? So it's repeated relational violations that you experienced in your early years. And as a result of that, you develop certain patterns and adaptations in order to survive your circumstances and best, adapt to your parents and your caregivers so you could ensure your care and your love. So we're gonna go over this. So how did I come across this? So I was attending an online trauma conference and somebody was talking about NARM therapy, which stands for a NeuroAffective Relational Model of therapy, which to me seems kind of similar to sensory motor psychotherapy in certain respects. And I have that video series already. So I'm not going to be talking about NARM therapy, but I really liked the model that they have of these 5 adaptive survival styles. And I read this book about 10 years ago and said, oh, that's very nice. And then I put it down. But after I saw that woman talking about NARM, I said, I think I want to read this again. So I read it again, and I just knew right away that this was going to have to be something to share with you all, because I think it's really helpful. And one of the things that I've gotten from listening to the comments that people have made on some of my attachment videos is that it's very healing to be able to see yourself and see your patterns and see that someone can describe them in a way that you can relate to. And I think this really adds to the attachment video series I have and some of the developmental things I discussed in the sensory motor psychotherapy series. It's a slightly different lens, and it's not that one is right and one is wrong, but it's a little different. And I think this captures a little bit of extra stuff that some of the other videos I have don't capture. So that's why I wanted to do this and share it with you. So like I said, I'm not going to do the NARM therapy, but if you are interested in learning more about it, they have a website, narmtraining.com. So if you're a therapist, you could probably learn about it there. You could read a little bit about it in that book. And I'm not getting any kind of endorsement for this book, by the way. And there's also a YouTube channel that they have. And I haven't watched their videos yet, but they have a whole bunch of videos that talks about NARM. So without further ado, let's get started. So one of the things that they talk about is that they break it down to us having 5 core developmental needs. Now, clearly we have more needs than this. I mean, we have needs for food and shelter and water and this and that, but developmentally, these are the 5 needs that they define. So they talk about a need for connection and just that feeling of connectedness, loving, attentiveness from your caregiver, someone that's holding you and tending to your needs and, making you feel loved. And that's really important. And that develops the earliest. So that's going to be the first video series. And I'll have to say the first video in the series of these 5, and it's going to be the longest one. I'll warn you right now. So you got to sit back and relax with a cup of coffee and take your time on that one. Next one is the need for attunement. So you need somebody to attune themselves and be responsive to the needs that you do have. So if you're a young child, the parent might attune to your need for cuddling or food or getting your diaper changed or, rocking or soothing. And when they respond to those needs appropriately, that's your need for attunement. And you feel like my needs are worthwhile and people care about them. The need to trust is the need to believe that important people in your life have your best needs, your best interests at heart, and that they're consistently there taking care of your interests in a positive way, that they're there for you and they're dependable and they're kind. And so feeling safe in that dependence on people because they have benevolent intentions. And being able to be interdependent with people, that means that we can rely on each other. And that's important when we get older, of course. The need for autonomy is the need to be my own person. So I have a relational self and I have an independent self. And there's parts of me that I just want to develop on my own. I want to explore. I want to try new things. I want to, be out and about, especially, when it starts when you're little and you're mobile and you move away from your parents. So if my parents respect my need for autonomy, then that's really healthy for me. And finally, the love and sexuality need. So when we start to move toward ages around 4 to 6, we have kind of like a very young kind of development of sexuality a little bit, maybe like, a puppy love, so to speak, or interest in our bodies. And then in early adolescence, it comes up again because we're reaching puberty. So our bodies are changing. We have some interest in romantic relationships and sex. And when our parents respect our changing sexual needs, and are allowing us to be loving beings as well as sexual beings, then we develop both of them in an integrated way, so that love and sexuality could go hand in hand in the same relationship with the same person. So that's the love and sexuality need. All right, so next, we're going to talk about the healthy, and then we're going to move into the problems. Okay, so in an ideal circumstance, this is what a healthy need satisfaction cycle would look like. So on an ongoing basis, we have needs that arise. We have, the needs we just talked about here, plus other kinds of needs. So the needs arise, and then an attuned caregiver responds appropriately. So I need food. I cry a certain way. They understand I'm hungry. They provide me with food. I feel I'm reaching out for holding. The caregiver picks me up and cradles me and makes me feel more comforted, and I feel held. All these things happen on an ongoing basis. And when I feel that this is occurring regularly, and I could trust that it's going to happen and that people are worthwhile and they're going to do this for me, then we have positive core capacities that can develop. So these are important, just life abilities that a healthy person would have. So we would want to feel self-connected, so connected to ourselves, to our emotions, to our body, and able to take them all in and process them and allow them to be there, whether they're positive or negative. Healthy connection to others. So that's really important. Next, we want a healthy sense of aliveness and vitality. So my energy level is good. I'm not too low. I'm not too high strung. I'm kind of in that comfortable window of tolerance level of arousal and energy. I'm able to self-regulate. So if my emotions get too high, I know how to bring them down. If my emotions get too flat, I know how to bring them back up. And I learned that because my caregiver was able to model that with me and cradle me and help soothe me physically and emotionally as I was growing up on an ongoing basis. And finally, the idea of creativity and resilience, that my prefrontal cortex, my thinking brain, is online because I'm calm enough and I feel like my needs are taken care of. So I can be resilient. I can be creative in my life. I can bounce back from trouble because I went through healthy cycles of rupture and repair. So this is the ideal healthy version that we were hoping for, but unfortunately it does not happen for a lot of folks. Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. Before I go on to the next one, I'll go play by play for what it looks like in a healthy version of the different needs that we were talking about earlier. So if your need for connection was adequately attended to, you're in touch with your body and emotions, because you have a full body connection to your caregiver when you're young. It involves a lot of holding, a lot of cradling, touching, stroking, kissing, and stuff like that. The capacity to be in consistent connection with others, and the feeling that we belong in the world. So you feel like you're welcomed by your caregiver, and you have a bigger belief that just the world in general is more friendly, more welcoming. Attunement. You're able to attune to your own needs and emotions. You're allowing yourself to look inside and see what they are and that they're there. You can recognize, reach out for, and take in physical and emotional nourishment from others. So you believe that people will attend to your needs appropriately. So you're able to reach out and ask for that help with the belief that it's going to happen. So that's really important. Next, trust. So capacity for inherent trust in ourselves and others. So trusting yourself as well. A lot of people, struggle with even trusting themselves, that they're going to not act out impulsively or do something that they'll regret later. the ability to feel safe enough to allow a healthy interdependence with others. So relying on each other, sort of like in the picture that the person on the right is trusting that someone will catch him when he falls. Okay, so autonomy. So that involves the ability to set appropriate boundaries. So if someone's intruding on me and trying to make me think the way they think or be who they want me to be, I know how to put a stop to that and say, wait a minute, I don't think that's right for me. And I could say no if I need to, if it's too much what someone's asking for me to do, or it doesn't feel right for me. I could set limits with people or even with my children. And I could speak my mind and do these things without guilt or fear. So I feel entitled to do that. I feel like it's okay for me to do that. And then love and sexuality. So I can live with an open heart and integrate a loving relationship with a vital sexuality. So I could be with a partner and have both things operating together and feel comfortable with that. Okay, so now, dun, 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 okay, when things aren't going as well as we planned, when needs aren't adequately met, this is what happens. So let's say this is one example of an instance, right? So my core needs arise, some need is coming up, and I'm reaching out to my caregiver for help in meeting these needs because I'm a kid and I can't do it myself yet. But now the caregiver ignores my needs or doesn't respond appropriately. They can invalidate them in one way or another. So at first, I just try a little harder to get them to do it. So I might protest, I might get fussing and crying a little bit. And if it still doesn't happen, now I might be getting angry about it. Hey, why isn't anyone listening to me? Why aren't you helping me out here? So I might start to get angry about it. And if this happens more, it's like my anger isn't resolved. So my physiology never really calms down. Like I get into hyperarousal to try to get my needs met, but it kind of stays there because there was no solution here. So my anger is not resolved. I'm in high arousal, anxiety, irritability. I might have temper outbursts. I'm just not feeling in that window of tolerance. I'm more high in hyperarousal, high arousal. But eventually, I realize all this protesting, all this anger, all this fussing around isn't getting me anywhere. And so I start to give up. Say, geez, even crying out, screaming, yelling, it's not even working. So I just say, oh, well, I give up. What am I supposed to do? So now I go down to the hypo-arousal mode, the low arousal, the giving up, the collapsed posture, the shame, the freeze, shutdown. Numbing to my own needs and emotions, because why bother feeling them if no one's going to come and help me with them anyway? I might as well try to shut them off. Now, this isn't done consciously. It's just something that we end up doing as an adaptation. Okay, now if this happens all the time, so the cycle is the core needs arise, needs are ignored or responded to inappropriately, kind of like we just talked about. So now I start to also draw some conclusions. I start to believe like, there's something wrong with my needs because obviously no one's taking care of them. So I'm taking this on myself, the sense of badness that my needs are bad or wrong, and I might as well just shut off and not attend to them even within myself. I'll try to pretend I don't have needs. I'll try to pretend I'm not upset. I might have a difficulty in self-regulation because I'm chronically in high or low arousal because my system is, dysregulated because my needs weren't fulfilled. Have distortions of what they say is my identity and my self-esteem. So in each survival type, we're going to talk about pride based identifications and shame-based identifications. So on the low end, I feel really bad and shameful of my needs. There's something wrong with them. There's something wrong with me. And that's a shame-based identity. And then the pride-based identity is the compensation. So it might be a little bit of grandiosity or some kind of role I'm taking on that makes me feel a greater sense of pride, but it's in direct reaction to that feeling of shame. It's like shame covered over by pride. And I get stuck in certain patterns. So each survival survival type style, rather, I think they say style, I said type style, it is the same thing. So each style has their own pattern of pride and shame-based identifications and what that looks like. So we're going to go over all that in the videos to come. And you get stuck there and it's hard to move the next stage of development because ultimately, these things go in order. So we're going to talk about like the sensitive periods of development for each of these things. And when problems happen in that period, when these are each important, you might start to develop things in these survival styles. And you might find that you relate to more than one, or that, you know, you have a little bit of this, but not maybe everything, but that's okay. That makes a lot of sense. So not to worry about that. Okay. So development of adaptive survival styles. So basically, why do these things develop? Why do these clusters of adaptation patterns develop? So if my core needs are chronically unfulfilled, I have a choice. Either I adapt to keep the love and care of my parents the best I can, or I really might emotionally or physically perish. There's even people in those Romanian orphanages that died because there was a lack of holding, there was a lack of attention to their emotional needs. There wasn't holding, there wasn't, you know, they were fed, but they weren't attended to in the right way. And so they literally perished because the physical and emotional go together. So anyway, so we adapt by enhancing the qualities that our parents like and that are accepting in us so we can keep their care, and trying to diminish and shut out and keep shameful the other qualities that they don't like that are creating a problem. Because the whole goal is to keep the love of the parents, okay? Maximize the attachment and love relationship. So it leads to like patterns of behavior, emotions, physiology, thought patterns, all that kind of stuff. And for each style, we're going to talk about that. Okay, so here's a brief summary of them. And I wanted to do this because the names of them may not make what they actually are clear. So you might think connection, oh yeah, it's because my survival type, because I love being connected to people. I'm very connected, I'm too connected, but that's not what it's about. So I just wanted to clarify this. So you get a sense of which videos might be most interesting to you. I mean, you might like all of them, but maybe there's something that you'd want to wait for or zero in on in particular. So connection, this survival type is when the connection need was not taken care of adequately. So as a result, I'm disconnected from my physical and emotional self. Because my parent wasn't connecting to me, I can't connect to aspects of myself. So I'm left with dysregulated emotions, hyper or hypoarousal, a sense of what they call nameless dread, like this feeling like something bad's going to happen. I just don't know what it's going to be, but I just feel that way. And that's because it was a reflection of something earlier on that happened. Dissociation. So it's hard to stay present. I might disconnect my mind from my body. I have compromised energetic boundaries, meaning like I feel like people are just like seeping into me and I have a hard time protecting myself. So I might feel unsafe. So this leaves me with wanting to have contact, wanting to have connection with people, but being afraid of it at the same time. So there's a little overlap with disorganized attachment. So if that feels familiar to you, you might relate to connection. But they do say that a lot of people have this survival style, and it's like a spectrum. Like, you know, it runs from kind of mild to much more severe, and with a lot of trauma-like symptoms. Okay, so stay tuned for that one. That's also going to be the longest video. Okay, attunement. So if that attunement need is not attended to adequately, you start to believe that expressing your needs isn't going to lead to fulfillment of your needs. You know, like if I cry enough and nothing happens, I give up. And so why even bother tuning into my needs myself? But instead, I might compensate by being a caretaker. I might attune to other people's needs and try to anticipate what they need and take care of that. And, you know, be like codependent in a way with them in the secret hope that eventually they'll return the favor. But a lot of times it kind of backfires. You end up in these vampire blood donor relationships where people are taking advantage of you and your kindness, but all you really wanted was for someone to attune to your needs. So you're kind of caught between wanting to accept your needs or wanting other people to, and then rejecting your personal needs and believing that other people are just going to reject them anyway. Okay, trust survival style. So this is when your need for trust of your significant caregiver was violated. There was a lot of betrayal. You were being used and exploited for their purposes, sometimes in an abusive way, sometimes in being like, you know, this like kind of like a stage mom and a kid, you have to perform in a certain way or be a certain role for the parents to make them feel good. And you end up feeling kind of used and exploited. and you feel like I'm going to compensate for this now. So when I get older, I'm not going to be used anymore. I'm going to be the user. I'm not going to be controlled. I'm going to be the controller. I'm going to be the one who dominates and exploits others because I'm not going to have that done to me anymore. So this has some overlap with narcissism, antisocial personality, some abusive people, especially in the extreme. So this might be something that you might relate to or know somebody who has like this feature. So the dialectic here is you're longing for trust. You secretly wish you could be interdependent and trust people, but you also don't trust other people. You feel like you could only rely on yourself because they're just going to exploit you. So why should I bother relying on you? I'm just going to dominate and exploit you instead. Okay, autonomy. So that's when your need to be your own person, to be independent, was thwarted by your parents. So you might, feel like you have to people please. So in order to, your parent might have wanted you to stay dependent for their own purposes. They might have a hard time with you breaking away, even though it's natural for you to do so at a certain age. So they may not have reinforced you for breaking away from them and only reinforced you for being dependent and staying dependent even when you didn't want to. So to keep them happy, you might have people pleased and try to do what they wanted you to do or be who they wanted you to be or stay dependent, but secretly resented it or secretly held out and was kind of willful on the side or like a little rebelling on the side. Or maybe you said you'd do something and then you wouldn't do it. So some of this passive aggressive stuff can come up as well. So the dialectic here is you long for the ability to say no to people, but you're afraid that if you do it and you want to be your own person, then people are going to reject you or they're going to shame you or make you feel bad. So you end up going along with it, but then you feel, it's not so great. Okay, I want healthy trust and interdependence, but it's kind of, I'm sorry, I'm looking at the wrong thing. I want to be authentic and independent, but it's not really respected by others. So that's my dilemma. I want to be independent, but people make me feel bad. I try to compensate by being nice to them, people pleasing, but then I resent it. Okay. All right, that's a lot of babbling, wasn't it? Okay, so love and sexuality. So again, if my parents did not respect my budding sexuality, I end up adapting by splitting love and sexuality. So I could love someone but not be sexual with them, or I might be sexual with somebody but not be able to have a close relationship with them. I might have, more comfort level having sex with a stranger or multiple partners, but not having a monogamous relationship with both things together. So, so I want love, but I don't know how to put sex there, or vice versa. So that's my dilemma. Okay, so that's the main summary. So I hope it's enticing you to want to watch more. I'm going to put these out over the next few weeks. So in this video series, it's going to be one for each, describing what the style looks like with a lot of detail, how it developed in your history, what does it look like now, what are the identities like, what are some of the physiology like. So it's a lot of cool stuff. I really hope you'll like it. So, so that's it for today. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you real soon. All right, bye you guys.